You either want it short or you want to chime in. Hard knock life for the Giants and Daniel Jones, who was battered behind a porous offensive line last year, 30 sacks in 6 games. Here's Giants GM Joe Schoen illustrating how bad the line was.
The reality is, facts.
Yeah.
3 serious injuries in 2 years.
Yeah.
We need to protect ourselves. He didn't have much of a chance this year. That's legit. Like your off-season, the 4 guys, your core guys that were going to play together played less than 60 snaps together.
Yep.
We got Miami, we got 3 practice squad guys playing for us.
Yep.
Like, nobody could. Like, you could have Pat Mahomes and he can't win behind that.
I mean, there's a lot.
Did they not respond? They just sit there.
Well, listen, I'm surprised at no point he didn't say, "Hey guys, where's my camera?
Hey, where's it?
I mean, this was.
Who did this? Who did this? Who's the GM of this team?
Right. So I mean, so there's a lot there, which is it's obviously the Giants needed to invest in the offensive line, and they did this offseason. Nobody denies that. Also, some of those sacks though are on Dable, the head coach. For not recognizing it on the fly and max protecting, doing things you need to do.
Sure.
Some of them are on Joe Schoen for seeing Daniel Jones. All 3 of those injuries didn't happen last year, and he gave him the big contract extension after 1 year on the job. And some of those sacks are on Daniel Jones. Sacks are a quarterback stat as well. They are not just a quarterback stat, but there is Mahomes, who he invoked there, the Chiefs have had varying degrees of quality offensive line over the last 4 years. He is ranked in his amount of time sacked in the league 27th, 21st, 21st, 22nd. So that's been very consistent, even though the quality offensive line hasn't. Because sacks are something of a quarterback stat, evidenced by Sam Howell being powerbombed into the earth at a rate like we'd never seen before because he can't help himself. Sorry, Wilds. Well. So this falls to me, Brew, on a little bit of deaf ears, being like, what do you want us to do? It's not the guy who I gave $160 million to fault hard knocks camera in the corner of my office.
No, look, I totally agree. And we've seen Joe Burrow operate behind a poor offensive line. Now, he's gotten hurt.
I've seen him operate in the hospital.
No, but he gets hurt. He got hurt in practice rolling out.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know when the risk, her injury occurred. So, but he's been able to maneuver poor offensive lines. No, he has consistently.
That first game, Giants-Cowboys, was there 1 second of that game where you're like, man, Daniel Jones, he's not getting it done?
I'm not saying.
Micah's like, oh, right there.
I think Nick hit on head. Everybody has a responsibility for those sacks, and their offensive line is horrible. But we see quarterbacks. Josh Allen's offensive lines aren't always the best. We see quarterbacks.
What was Purdy's ranked?
Purdy's was ranked 21st, bottom 11.
Purdy never had a game like that, and Purdy's slower than Daniel Jones.
Quarterbacks you have to have a quick release. You have to be mobile.
Quick release
to who? Smart. And
who do you want Daniel Jones?
Saquon Barkley's maneuvered okay. I get pass blocking and run blocking are different, but he's maneuvered okay through that offensive line. I'm not defending the line. I'm just saying it is clear that top-notch quarterbacks can maneuver a poor offensive line.
The poorest offensive line Patrick Mahomes ever had was in the Super Bowl, right? We're going to say that?
Yeah.
He was pressured on 33% of his snaps.
They were facing a Super Bowl team as well.
And he had a makeshift offensive line, and he was totally ineffective.
But that makeshift offensive line, I know the injuries occurred late in that season, but still, he maneuvered throughout the season.
I know, but no, Mahomes' offensive line during that year was not as patchwork as it was.
No, he got decimated by the very end. That is correct.
And we saw him not be able to operate.
I knew you were going to bring that up. And Brew's point but that was also against a great pass rush, not just your whole league schedule. But the other thing is, you know what a lot of people came away from that game saying? Oh, my God. Mahomes actually kind of played great given the circumstances. He
was under duress.
You watched the game and you were like, oh, he was making things happen even though the team, he had no time. Not what people were saying when watching Daniel Jones. But now I wish I had a picture of Kevin Wilds. Dusty the board.
Oh, wow.
There's not a lot of hard and fast rules
up there.
But one of them
is
Joe Schoen. Don't ever use Patrick Mahomes' name in the same sentence as Daniel Jones, and certainly don't ever have this quote exist. Mahomes can't win. I don't care what you said after that. Those 3 words with an expletive in the middle came out of your mouth. Joe Schoen, you're on the board.
That is the only thing on the board that was actually a compliment.
You know what?
It
was not a compliment. He was saying he couldn't do it. He was basically being like, hey, the guy I gave $160 million to and the greatest quarterback ever. No one, they're the same. They can't do it. And it's going to be very awkward when after this season, Joe Schoen might be a guest on this show, and I have to show him that he was on the board. I'm just telling you right now.
Coming up next, the Lions.
The board is getting
Populated for the offseason.
Yeah.
Put Wiles up there.
For what?
You're good enough to be an MVP during the regular season, and in the playoffs, you're 2-4 as a playoff quarterback. You're completing 57% of your passes as a playoff quarterback. You've got 6 touchdowns that you've thrown and 6 interceptions. You want to talk about the definition of mediocrity when it comes to playoff football? Lamar Jackson is mediocre come playoff time.
I mean, that sounds like a strong take, but I didn't see any lies there either. So here's the winning percentage of best regular season win percentage since the merger. It's Mahomes, Brady, Lamar right there, number 3. But when you look at the playoffs,
That's our old Jimmy G graphic.
That's right.
Keep going down, and Jimmy G would be on there pretty quickly.
everyone's got a lot of
Where's
playoff
Purdy?
wins.
Purdy's he hadn't started enough games yet.
Minimum 25 starts.
Well, Lamar's 2-4, as Stink mentioned, but Brady's 35-13, and Staubach was 11-6. So, Brew, what's your reaction to this?
Well, you said he's getting hammered on social media. It's those last 3 words that you keep him from getting hammered. Come playoff time. Because when I first saw Lamar as mediocre from Schlaber, I'm thinking, what? That's crazy. But when he says come playoff time, and you guys know how much I love Lamar.
Yeah.
He's right, though. Stink is right. Come playoff time, and I got a graphic here that shows you got the winning percentage you showed there, but 33% in the postseason. Everything goes down. Completion percentage, touchdown percentage, interception percentage goes up, but that's worse. And the passer rating drops big time. And look, the only thing I don't think we showed this part, but Stink said, he wets the bed or something to that effect in the playoffs.
Stink
That's what I disagree. Yeah, I disagree with that part. I don't think it's wetting the bed or the stage is too big. I think he has not been, especially earlier in his career, a great passer, and that has hurt him in the playoffs. Now, if you want to say last year he wet the bed, I think that would be fair. Because I thought he got away from what he really is, which is, he had opportunities that he left on the board. He could have ran against the Chiefs, and he didn't. This is fair, though, because Peyton Manning had to go through this, too. And when you're so great in the regular season, until he wins a Super Bowl, that's it. Until he wins a Super Bowl, this criticism is going to be leveled at him.
Yeah, so it's worse, though, than Peyton's thing. Peyton, 15 trips to the playoffs, 3 times. The fewest points they scored that season were in the playoff game, 3 out of 15. For Rodgers, it's never happened. Josh, it's happened 1 in 5. Mahomes, it's happened 1 in 6, the Super Bowl. Dak, who we talk about a lot, playoff struggles 0 times in his 5 career trips to the playoffs.
Oh, you get some garbage points there.
That's fine, but 0.
Yeah.
For Lamar, it's every single year it's happened.
Hold on, say it again.
Every single year, the Ravens' fewest points that season are in their playoff loss. That's 4 for 4. This year, to be fair, it was tied for the fewest, but it was still, in his 4 career playoff losses, they averaged 10.5 points per game. If you go through his game log every single year and say, what was his worst or second worst game of the year? Every single year, one of them is the playoff game. It is jarring. As far as how often do the Ravens play a game where they just never get going in the regular season versus the playoffs, we can show you this list. Twice in 77 career regular season games, they've never held a lead. 4 of his 6 career playoff games, they've never held a lead. That's all 4 losses. I'm going to do a blind reveal, double blind if we can. One of them, by the way, is Lamar. But we'll show you 2 quarterbacks, and I did total yards because running is obviously a big part of it.
I'm guessing that's Dak.
That is Dak. And Dak's whole thing is the lack of playoff performances. Lamar would kill for those playoff numbers. And so I said it during the year last year, and people didn't like it. I will say it again. There is an element of Rockets James Harden for Lamar until further notice.
But part of the Rockets, James Harden, twofold. One was maybe he shrinks on the bigger stage. One was that style of play doesn't work in the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that Lamar and the Ravens looked at that, and I felt that way as well. That style of play, we haven't seen it yet win the Super Bowl, right? That type of heavy running quarterback. And I think the Ravens looked at that and said, that's why we're changing the offense, which most people thought was wise. And it worked during the regular season. But then that's why Lamar was so hesitant to run in the AFC title game. And if he had gotten back to that running, they might have won.
But we